Welcome back to Lucid Living. And if this is your first time, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to have you aboard. My name is Andrew Larkin. I'm an actor, model, performer, storyteller, breathwork coach, and today I'm going to be your host, your guide for today's podcast episode. All right, my friends, we are rocking and rolling with a brother from another mother, and I'm so stoked to dive into this conversation. It's going to be a good one, y'all. But before we introduce this amazing guest, we're going to do some deep intentional breath work. So, today I'm feeling a box breath, so that's going to be an equal part breathing. So it's going to be an inhale. Let's do for five. So an inhale for five, hold at the top for five, an exhale for five, and a hold at the bottom for five. We're going to do that three times. And remember, as we inhale, we're going to inhale through the nose and expand the belly outwards like you're filling up a nice big water balloon. Hold at the top, and then exhale out the mouth, and that belly is going to come back to your center. And we're just going to do that three times. It's going to be beautiful. And we're just going to feel balanced and connected to our bodies and be able to move forward with a little bit more grace and mindfulness. So, if you don't mind joining me, let's take this moment for us and let's begin with an inhale through the nose in three, two, one. Big inhale through the nose. Two, three, four, five. Hold it. Two, three, four, five. Exhale out the mouth. Five, four, three, two, one. Hold it. Four, three, two, one. Inhale through the nose. Two, three, four, five. Hold it. Two, three, four, five. Exhale out the mouth. Four, three, two, one. Hold it. Four, three, two, one. Last one. Big inhale through the nose. Two, three, four, five. Hold it. Two, three, four, five. And exhale out the mouth. Four, three, two, one. Hold it. Four, three, two, one. Alright, you can return to your natural breathing. Wiggle the fingertips, wiggle the toes. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My friends, today we got an actor, a writer, a collaborator, an adventurer, an innovator, a mentor, and a fellow heavy hitter. It's Giovanni Fontana. What's going on, my brother?
What's going on, man? I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, thinking of me to be on the show. How are you doing, man? How are you?
Bro, living the dream. This is actually, truth be honest, we live in the ups and downs kind of life in this industry sometimes, and I
Yeah,
feel that. I feel that pretty heavily at times. But being able to do this, being able to be with you, connect with fellow friends, fellow actors, fellow artists.
yeah.
Right now, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great.
Good. Good. Yeah, I had a professor in college say the highs are really high and the lows are really low in what we do. So
Hmm.
you gotta just, appreciate every moment that you have, whether it's high or low, and just know that, the journey is can be rough, but it's the people you meet along the way, and it's the change that you spread in the world that it makes it all worth it.
Amen, brother. Amen. Put that on a postcard. All right. I did. So first off, we're just gonna talk about where you're at right now, physically, where you're at emotionally, spiritually, physically, all that good
Yeah.
stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Physically, I feel like this is one of the healthiest I've ever been in my life. I'm on kind of a diet where I'm just trying to hit my protein every day, my carbs, my fat, and like keep those regulated and
Hmm.
drinking lots of water. Like I've always been a water drinker, but currently I'm like really, okay, I got to get at least 100 ounces a day. And I feel the difference. Like in my skin, I can see it in the mirror and my energy, and I feel so much better.
Hmm. Do you have one of
Um,
those like water bottles that tracks it or?
I used to like, yeah, by noon you got to hit
Yeah.
this, and then by 1 o'clock. But no, I have a app that I track my calories on and also my water intake. So
Nice. Which app do you use for anyone listening who's trying to get into? Are you
yeah,
do you
yeah. Let me
use
pull it up
calorie
right
count?
now. It's called VSync, like VESYNC, and the reason I use this app is because it connects with my scale. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Word.
free and
Nice.
everything. So that's great. So I'm doing great physically. I've also started running, which is awesome. It's
That's
like kind of a goal of mine this year to run a marathon.
hmm. Do you
Um,
run outside or
yes,
in the
yes.
gym?
And I chose like the worst time because I started running in the winter and it's so hard to dress for the winter to go run
Hmm.
outside. I'm like, I want to run on the Hudson,
Hmm.
pretty views, but I'm like, man, I wear a coat and I'm like a little chilly on my walk and then I just sweat so much and then I'm freezing on the walk back. So
Hey man, it's a method, dude. If you start off
it's
harder, it's gonna make, spring and summer a breeze.
true, true.
And so where
Yeah.
are you at geographically?
I'm in Manhattan, New York
Manhattan.
City.
Hey,
Yep.
hey.
Yep.
All right, very cool. All right, but now we're gonna dive into the past. I always find when it comes to connecting with others and even doing a lot of work on myself that I learn a lot, and I think a lot informs who we are based off of our past experiences, how we were raised, what environment we were around, and kind of the ins and outs that kind of led us to who we are today. So give us a little glimpse into the world of Giovanni, a young Giovanni, coming into this world. What were, your family environment like? And then, stepping in like interests, hobbies, what were you getting yourself into? And then as you kind of
Yeah.
progressed throughout, middle school and then high school and then college.
Yeah.
So in your own words, if you want to share a little bit about what life was like for young Gio.
Definitely. So one of the words I gave you for my introduction was adventurer, and that has always been true. I've always been spontaneous and trying to just see the world in every way that I can. Um, but yeah, I was born in Detroit, and I was only there for like a few years. I was very young, but I've always claimed Michigan to be my team for, college football.
Mhm.
Um, and I grew up in Dallas though. So there's just so much opportunity for adventure in Dallas, in DFW or outside. And I found that with a lot of friends of mine. We had bikes and we would bike everywhere in my childhood. And even in like the sewage drains, like we would go down there with longboards and like explore the drains. I know that sounds crazy, but I always had this curious mind of just like, ooh, what's that? I need to learn about this. And running around like with ripsticks, bikes growing up, I think really describes young me being a little adventurer. But I played football all my life before starting to act, and that shaped me in a lot of ways, kind of the discipline and the hard work pays off mindset. But I also always had an emotional side to me that I never really explored until I got into acting, which that happened like my senior year of high school. I started acting and I was like, I'm gonna pursue this. I'm just gonna go for it. And yeah, I think it was that curious mind, that curious part of me that was like, man, I want to explore this, but I haven't really thought about it ever because, I'm a young man in Texas playing football with a bunch of dudes around. Like, it's not something though, guys like that explore, honestly, and I mean, that's a whole topic of its own. But I think my life changed for the better as I started to act and explore that part of me for
Yeah.
sure.
How old were you when you moved from Detroit to Dallas?
I was like 4 years old. Like I was very, very young, 4 years
Yeah.
old. But it's I don't really remember much, but it's like I feel like it connects to a part of me. The only real big thing that happened in Detroit, and this is crazy. I'm good, obviously, now, but when I was 2 years old, my dad accidentally ran me over with a car.
Mm.
Like, I ran out. They were going to a Aretha Franklin concert, and I tripped over the tire. Like, they didn't see me. I ran out. My babysitter was, I guess, not paying attention or something. And he ran me over fully, like toes everything like obviously yeah and his friend in the street saw it happen and then my dad was like, oh man, I must have broke one of the lawn chairs, and so he goes back down and they come out and it was little 2-year-old me sitting there under the tire with like tire marks on me and stuff, and so they rushed me to the hospital and they did like a bunch of CAT scans and I was fine, like not a bone broken, nothing was wrong with me. um yeah, it's kind of there's a whole I like to call like famous quotes in my family or famous sayings or just things that got, kind of are iconic in our household. And when I was in third grade, I wrote a book in my class called Ran Over, and it was like based on a true story. And my teachers like called home and they were like, "Is everything okay?" And they're like, "No, no, this is actually sadly a true story."
Man. Dude, you
Yeah,
were built to play football, dude. That's that's
I
that's a
guess.
that's like a miracle. That's a full-on miracle that happened.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I don't remember it, but that was crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what was because football culture is big in high school, like across the country, but football
Hmm.
culture in Texas is like on another level. So, and I mean, you were throwing the football on set, like I've seen you, bro. Like you were nice with it. So, what was? I'm sure you started pretty young playing football, but what was like? How did football like? Because I think community sports prepares us a lot for performance and acting as well.
Yeah.
But what was that environment like? And then how did it prepare you for the pursuit of being an actor now?
Yeah, I think football, I think it showed me that, I mean, going back to like, it's cheesy, but like the hard work pays off. The more time you spend with something, the better you're gonna get at it, you know?
Mm.
Practice makes perfect mindset. Like, the more time I spend with a script and I can dive into a character and do research, the more comfortable I'll feel with it, and which makes me more spontaneous and makes me like, makes my performance more informed. And I'll talk to you about this later once we get into like the future and
Hmm.
that conversation. But that's something I want to hit is about spontaneity and preparation and, you know, how can we replicate that performance that we had the other night that was just, that was it. Like, gosh, that was perfect, and the audience felt it, I felt it. Yeah, we'll get into that later, but that's like one of
Hmm.
my favorite topics to talk about in acting.
Yeah.
Um, Anyways, yeah, the what helped me with football and yeah, sorry,
No, you're good.
I
You're
got
good.
excited about that
Yeah,
and my brain
I
just
love
like
it.
started moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that hard work pays off mindset. Like, we're in the weight room, we're conditioning, we're running looking at the playbook, reading defenses, doing film. Preparation is key in whatever you do. I think anything in life. Like if you're prepared, you'll be more confident and I mean, you're more likely to succeed, which, in football, succeeding is winning, but in acting, success is,
Hmm.
you know,
Subjective. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Now I gotta ask because you're kind of like the Troy Bolton of football in that world. It's not an easy transition, especially when you're in that kind of environment, that kind of locker room talk, that kind of like style of masculinity, which we can talk about
yeah.
later. Going from that to theater, it's funny because I had a very almost similar story where was first finally gave myself permission to do acting was senior year in high school.
Hmm.
And I didn't do it earlier because I was afraid of what my friends would think. And I was like, guys, maybe we should do this and get laughed at, that kind of thing. So what was that transition going from, hey guys, I'm a football guy to being like, I might be a theater guy now? And how were
Oh
they,
yeah.
because I actually had a friend who was not a theater kid growing up. And senior year, he's like, I'm not doing it. I want to do a play. And he did a musical and he was fantastic in it. But the theater community was kind of like, you're not one of us? So what was like the transition of going from the football guy to becoming a theater guy?
Yeah, man, it's really sad because I feel like, you know, people in the world praise actors like Leonardo DiCaprio, all these successful people, and but when you're in high school, it's like you look at the theater people and everyone kind of judges them. They're like, "Oh, you're kind of weird because you're so free in yourself," which is absolutely insane to me. So yeah, I got so many people judged me. I definitely lost, I mean, friends. They weren't really friends if they're not going to support me in this, but it made my circle smaller and I knew the people that actually like loved me for who I am and not just, I don't know. It's crazy to even think about that people would act some type of way towards you just because you're doing something that you love?
Mm.
Um, but I guess I found the real ones in my life, because so many people have such a weird idea of that. Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, it leaves me speechless because I'm like, it makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, like we admire and look up to people who were those theater kids in high school, you know? So it's just like
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
weird
Like we
and
all have, everyone has a different journey to get to where they eventually are, and judging people for that is, yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, and maybe things are changing, who knows? Because I feel like, like back even like 10, 15 years ago, it was like not cool to do television. And now it's like you're a movie star. And now it's like TV's in. And now it's like everyone wants to be famous because everyone can get on camera and be on TikTok, on social media and be
Oh
influencers.
yeah.
So now being on camera, like in that environment, I feel like is more attractive. So I mean, I'm not in the high school setting. I think bullying happens across the board in a lot of
Yeah, it's
places.
horrible.
Also, just watched this show called Adolescence. Hashtag shout out Adolescence, bro. Unbelievable. Like
Okay.
unbelievable, dude. Um, but what did it look like? What were those first steps? Were you taking acting classes like outside of school, or was it like I'm taking a theater 101 class and then I want to do a play? What was that kind of transition?
Yeah, so definitely not your typical route that I took to get into theater. I started with an acting class in school because I needed an elective, and I was like, yeah, I'll take an acting class. And I feel like there was a small part in the back of my brain that always thought about it, but I never actually fully committed to it. And once I started in it, I was like, wait, this is nice. Like there is something freeing about this. Like I like this. I'm gonna explore it a little more. And so that summer, I went and did like a show at like a community theater, Shakespeare in Love. Never gonna forget this. And just
I love that movie, bro. I've never seen
yeah,
the play, but I love the movie.
the play it's the same as the movie. And I my best friend played my best friend in the show, and it was just perfect. Um, yeah, it's fun. It's fun thinking back on those memories. I'm loving this conversation. I'm like, it's so rare for me to think about like things so far in the past now because I'm always focused on what's next, you know? So it's
Yeah.
really refreshing actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I took an acting class, did the show in the summer, and then my senior year I did a directing class. I was curious on that side of things. Little did I know I was actually about to direct a play before I even like fully was in a school play. I directed a school play with a friend of mine, and I didn't know that was the class, and I ended up like teaching people and directing, and I'm like, wait, this feels like I shouldn't be doing this for many years from now, but I learned so much from that just being on the other side, which is weird because I didn't know much, but I had to, I felt like I had to work harder to catch up with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all throughout college as well. I was like, I have to work harder because everyone's been doing this their whole lives. Whereas I don't think I had to work harder, but it was a good motivator to just soak everything up that I possibly could. Um, it's acting is such a funny thing because someone can just start and be amazing. You can just someone, I'm sure there were so many guys on Heavy Hitters that never really acted and they were so great.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a funny thing.
Yeah, it's amazing when, because so much of it is you bring yourself to it, and a lot of people have amazing personalities that they can bring to
Yeah.
it. That someone could be acting for like 10 years, but they don't necessarily have your spark or your energy or your light. And if you're in an environment where it's safe and you're able to play and really express those parts of yourself, bro, it's like there's so many talented people, man. And like again, adolescence, hashtag adolescence. The kid who's like the lead in it was like 14 years old, bro. Never acted before, like full on, never acted. They were like one everything was in one shot. So it was like theater and it was just unbelievable. All right.
Wait, where is
Bro,
this
it's
show?
crazy. It's
Yeah,
on Netflix. It's on Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah, it's getting a
Okay,
lot of love right now too. Great
nice.
writing. And it's also about masculinity. So anyone we're gonna dive into masculinity at some point during this conversation, but
Yes, we are.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, so dude, I want to because I feel like I talked to a lot of guys about this and hearing you be thrust into a position where I feel like I don't want to put this on you, but like I feel like imposter syndrome probably lived a little bit there, where you're like in a position that you might not feel like you're worthy of being in because you hadn't done the acting or you hadn't even done directing it, and now you have to like play this position where you're doing that. And I think a lot of times in this industry specifically, sometimes we could get opportunities or not get opportunities and feel like I haven't been doing this long enough. We start living in comparison, and comparison is just the thief and root of a lot of self-suffering and
Mhm.
self-sabotage and um it's and I just hear the best actors in the world struggling with this kind of imposter syndrome. And I don't like romanticizing it, but that kind of feeling of maybe enoughness. What have you experienced with that, and like how is it, I guess, like motivated you, and how do you kind of handle that when it does come up in the body?
Oh, definitely, man. I think every actor experiences this. I think they're lying if they don't, you know? Something that really helped me was the transition from football to acting because so many people judged me for it and they were like, kind of dropped me off or didn't really talk to me or gave me weird looks or whatever. And I was like, you know what? I don't even care because I'm doing this for me and because I love it. Little did I know, like, now I do this because I know I can change people with this art and, or just give people an escape, you know? But I think that transition and how harsh people were really helped me learn how to combat those feelings. So like when I was directing that play, I I knew it wasn't all BS. Like I wasn't always just like making stuff up, but um whether I don't know if I'm getting lost right now because it's hard to put into words, but
Mhm.
I guess I think just loving yourself is the answer to a lot of things in life. Like if you love yourself and you believe in yourself, I mean you can do anything, but I think it's easy to get down on yourself in this career with especially with all the rejection and all these people judging you and it's like you got to have a survival job. You got to, all these self-tapes you feel like you're sending into the void like is anyone even watching these like but I think if you just love yourself and uh not don't get down on yourself, don't get down on
Mhm.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
no, I.
sounds so simple. It's so
Mhm.
much easier said than done, but I think in these past few months, like whenever you haven't booked something for a while, it's easy to get down on yourself, but I'm just like, man, I look at the guy in the mirror and I'm like, I gotta love this guy or else nothing else is gonna work. And so I've been working on that and it's a great feeling to start to really like the man in the mirror looking back at me, you know?
Bro, I love that so much, so freaking much. And I think imposter syndrome is so unique because we're putting ourselves in a position where it's like we can rise to the occasion or we can like sink and fall. And I don't think a lot of people like in life have a lot of opportunities like that. I mean, there are, across the board, but I think in this industry specifically, there's a lot more times where honestly, any gig you book, it's scary and uncomfortable and new, and you can either rise or you can fall. And it's like what separates like the goods from the greats, which is why I think being an athlete lends itself really well to being an actor is because you have those moments where everyone thinks Kobe's too young or everyone thinks that this person's like not right for the part, that Heath Ledger is like absolutely the most ridiculous person to play the Joker, and then they are able to either rise or fall, and in that is so much growth, dude. It's freaking exciting, but
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's a crazy world.
And
It's a
it's
crazy
who
world.
you surround yourself with as well, right? Like this is dark. I just watched the Gabby Petito documentary, if you know about Gabby
I
Petito.
do not wait. I don't know.
She just it was this young girl who basically she was murdered by her boyfriend. And it was like
Mm,
true crime documentary and getting down to it how it all happened and then he ended up like killing himself. It was crazy. Very crazy.
mm-hmm.
But she had a passion and she wanted to start a blog and a YouTube channel. And you could tell she loved what she did and she wanted to get her work out there. But this man kept dragging her down and being like, "Oh, you're no good, you're no good." But like and then she'd be vlogging in front of him and there's a lot of clips of that like from her camera in the docu-series. And it's just this man dragging her down and she's not confident. And so sorry, I got a call. I don't know. You got to surround yourself with people that motivate you and not drag you down, you know. Uh,
100%, dude.
that's
I
huge.
like, yeah, I think. like you could be objectively the most beautiful person in the world if you're around people who are constantly picking at your nose or like saying you have a weird nose or
Yeah.
weird eyes or your
Yeah.
hair is this or your body is this. You're just gonna sink and you're gonna fall to that expectation. You're gonna think you're ugly when like what is beauty? It's all, a thing, and
Yeah.
it's really such a big thing in this industry, and it's a weird thing too because sometimes that negativity, like if you don't think you're a good actor, if you are a good actor but you're around people who say you're not enough, you're not going to make it, sometimes that can be great fuel to the fire, but ultimately
Hmm.
I think it leads to a lot of burnout and not sustainability. So having people that believe in you but also challenge you, it's a freaking it's crazy, dude.
You said it right there, though. People that believe in you and also challenge you, like make you
Hmm.
want to be better and grow.
Hmm.
That's huge. That's huge. I'm starting to write like after we're done with this, I'm going to uh a diner and I'm writing. I got a group of people and we're just starting to write things, looking at auditions. I haven't done much theater since I've moved and I miss it. And so I'm I'm looking at all the auditions for the next like month or two and I'm planning them out. But also I'm excited to write though, like just to fill that part of me, you know?
Hmm.
And
Dude.
have these people that motivate me and challenge me and they're like, "Ooh, but what about this idea?" And we collaborate, I'm so excited for this. This is a brand new thing I'm doing and
Hmm.
I'm not expecting anything from it. I'm just gonna do it and love that I'm doing it.
Hmm.
Fulfilling that artist side of me.
Dude, I love that so much. I think that's talking about things to do in between like gigs can be really challenging. I'm finding it is very challenging. Um, but having that community, bro, that not only like constructive criticism is key and huge and so important in
Yes.
growing as an artist, where they challenge you in that regard, but also holding you accountable. Because I find specifically with writing and then also any I feel like creative endeavor, if you're not like surrounded by that kind of inspiration and you're just kind of on your own journey, it's very easy to like get a spark of energy and go crazy and then just like it disappears. And that's kind of that writer's block and kind of it. And having people to constantly hold yourself accountable, whether you're meeting once a week or twice a week,
Mhm.
keeps you on track because it's another kind of external force to push you along this journey with it where all the odds are against us, bro. So why like
Sure
we
are.
gotta stack things in our favor. You know what I'm saying? So I
We
I love
do.
that you're doing that so much, bro. Freaking full on artist. Okay, I want to talk about the transition from you got the bug, you're in it. Now you're not just in it, but you're good at it, bro. And now you're decide you take the you take your talents, bro. Sorry, I'm watching the Kobe documentary. And he's like, I'm taking my talents to the NBA. You
Hey,
take
I'm
your
watching
talents,
Last Dance for the first time right now.
dude. It's good. It's good.
So good.
Such a crazy era. So, if I'm not mistaken, you go to Oklahoma City University, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Well, did you go to study acting and theater and performance?
Yes. So I got a BFA in acting, which is like a whole umbrella of things, under this. It's a lot of theater, but also a good amount of film on cam training as
Mm.
well.
That's
Yeah.
great. What was that transition like? You're in a big, this is like a big school, big like football school too, and like sports school, and then you're also around and doing what you love. What was that like?
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. I'm constantly surrounded by artists, people that think like me, and want to do the same stuff as me, and we're all creating art every single day. Literally 7 days a week. Like either we're going to see shows or we're writing something or doing something for class, making a short film for fun, auditioning for shows like in the community or at school. It was amazing. It really was. I'm constantly doing something artistic. Um, that transition, it honestly was so easy. Like I went from home to school and I was like, this feels so right. And honestly, I moved to college and I didn't come back home. I lived in Oklahoma City for 4 years. I went back home and visited, of course, but I loved it. I felt right at home, surrounded by all these like-minded people, and yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
it's a great experience. I love school. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. And then the transition from going to school where you have all that structure, you have things set up to taking the leap into, all right, I'm going to do this for a living. Did you go straight from OCU to New York?
I
That's
did. And when I say straight from, I didn't go back to Dallas. Like I went the day I graduated, I flew to New York.
wow. And you had like
Or
an
it was the
apartment
day
all set
the
up?
day after.
Hmm.
So yeah.
And then what
Yeah.
was did like how do you feel that the program prepared you for the world? And did you want to go? Because I know you said you haven't done a lot of theater in a bit. Did you want to come to New York and do Broadway and do theater, or was it film and TV?
Well, I wanted to do both. I want to do everything,
Hmm.
And I felt like New York is the place where I can. I came and I thought my career would go starting with Shakespeare because, I was like, not a lot of people in their 20s do Shakespeare and love it. And so that's the best opportunity for me, and that's where I can get my foot in the door. And then I was just like, oh, wait, they also have a lot of film up here. So I started audition for that, and it worked out on the film side more than it did the theater because I didn't really touch the theater side because I was busy with film.
Hmm.
But now I'm like, man, I miss it so much. I want to get back to it, and that's my journey right now. I'm getting back to that, but
Hmm.
I'm auditioning for everything though. Anything I can get my hands on.
Yeah, bro. I love that. All right, now I want to dive into this little topic about masculinity because I find, especially when I bring on, kind of my male friends, it's such a weird thing in the world. And also that show is it's so fresh on my mind, and it really
Yeah.
dives into this topic of masculinity and like mirroring the impact of like Andrew Tate and how he projects what masculinity is on men and how it kind of ripples down, and then social media's impact and a lot of different variables, um and through personal kind of struggles, self-identity is like, who am I? And also as performers, we're constantly putting on masks, so the struggle with identity is always kind of there. um but I don't even know what question I'm trying to formulate. But yeah, kind of in the realm of identity and masculinity, I guess, was that something that and also being in the football setting and then going into film and theater and acting, where again
Mm.
you're putting on all the different masks. Did you have was it ever a struggle? Like, I guess, finding who you are and how you, I guess, deal with, I don't know, man. Just football, just like, I remember crying at football a lot, dude. Like our coaches were intense, dude. And I can't imagine what Dallas was like, and like wrote some
Oh
dirt
yeah.
on it, like all these narratives about what it is to be a man and to man up. So what was your experience with that?
Yeah, so I'll put it this way, like I've had coaches throw like 50 keys at the back of my head in a film session. Like in seventh grade, we had a guy get in trouble for this. We A punishment in seventh grade was fill your mouth with water and go bear crawl to the other side of the football field and back, and then spit the water out so that, and if you don't have the water in your mouth, you got to do it again. I was like, we are in seventh grade, dude. Y'all are insane. Like, how are you about to make this kid? And then, like, if your nose gets, congested or something, I'm like, I can't breathe, man.
Mhm.
Crazy. But you just gotta you gotta man up, right? That's what they say. Yeah, I have so many stories of football like that with masculinity. It's a horrible, I mean, I understand it with football, but not the toxic masculinity portion of it. When I went to OCU, it was like that just disappeared. That didn't exist in the world? And even in Oklahoma City, like in Oklahoma, it's very red, but Oklahoma City is the one blue county of the state. And not saying there's not Republicans that are artists, but I'm saying like OCU was a bubble, and Oklahoma City itself. And so going from football to an acting school, a performing arts school for 4 years, it was like, oh wait, maybe the world has gotten better. But then you're like, wait, no, I'm in a bubble right now. It's like, so it's the same as it was.
Mhm.
Whereas I think we're heading in a better direction than we have been for like 100 years. It's obviously it's not moving fast enough.
Mm-hmm. No, it's real. And it's unfortunate because I feel like this style of quote unquote toxic masculinity is passed down from generation, from
Oh
man to
yeah.
man to man, and it was like way worse back in the day, and we're kind of like swinging that pendulum a little bit in the opposite direction. Um, to the point almost I feel like sometimes it gets too intense and we lose our because we it's not like we should like I got a lot of feminine energy in me. I got two sisters, you know, and I love that side of myself, but sometimes like we can't deny our masculine side. It's we got to balance both the yin and the yang in all of it, but we can't deny that a lot of it comes down passed down from generations from you know older men in our lives. And with that, it's like you could have a male figure who lends itself to put you down that path of kind of negative self-belief or all those narratives and stories around masculinity. And then you can also have one of those figures in your life that inspires you, that again challenges you, encourages you, loves you in a different light, and shows you what it means to truly be a man or to be a human. And it's, you know, sometimes you're just blessed with that figure in your life, and that's kind of letting itself into mentorship. And I know you talk about yourself being a mentor, and I'm curious, did you have mentors in your life, and what is that, and what did that or does that mean to you, being a mentee and then also flipping to also being a mentor now?
Yeah, I think the mentors in my life growing up showed me love, and that's all they needed to do. Whether they had the right words to say in the time or not, they always showed me love, and that meant everything to me. Like I'm literally getting emotional thinking about this right now because those people mean everything to me, and we could just, I'm having a bad day or something, we could just sit in the room and just like be with each other's presence, and that is enough. Like you don't have to even say anything, just like showing support, I think, and motivating me and challenging me and helping me grow. Like that's what I got from my mentors growing up. And I never saw myself as a mentor until it just kind of happened. Like I happen to have people like guys that are a bit younger than me that just looked up to me. And it's not like I would sit them down and just be like, let me tell you how to do life. It's just kind of like show them love, and if they need guidance, be that person they can lean on.
Mhm. Man,
Yeah.
that's
But
beautiful.
I think love is the answer to so many problems in our world right now. And
Mhm.
I think it's the most important thing, most important topic we need to be talking about. But as men, this toxic masculinity, like it's not a lot of love. It's a lot of you gotta be manly, you gotta be angry or whatever. And you talk about passed down from generation to generation. Well, it's not only just fathers and grandfathers that can do that now, it's social media. And like, these guys, like the one you mentioned earlier, like Andrew Tate, geez, he's a nut job, but it's like people can get so influenced, like millions of people all like that, and then it just spreads like a disease.
Mhm.
And there's no love there. None.
No, man. And I always find that sometimes like the loudest cat in the room or the loudest dog in the room is the most insecure. And there's like this wave of men who are just trying to be dominating and loud. And I feel like so much of that comes from so much pain of not being
Oh
heard when
yeah.
they were younger or not being enough when they were younger. So they have to overcompensate. You see guys who are like absolutely jacked who, you know, maybe got hurt when they were younger. So there's like so much armor that they're
Yeah.
putting on, and just they're just loud, man. And I just find it funny, man, that like ancient, like, you know, Egypt culture where it's like the woman ran the show, you know. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not I'm ready for it to kind of swing in that direction,
Yeah,
man,
me
because there's so
too.
much like a nurturing, motherly, again, kind of feminine energy, maybe not full swing in that direction because we got to have that balance. But I pray. I know we're not there yet. I listen to a lot of, you know, women kind of in the industry, and there's a lot of growth happening, but it's still, we're still not there.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, it's cool, man, because I even talked to my mom. I like bring on all these guys from Heavy Hitters on the show, and she listens to them. She's like, Andrew, these are all your guys. They're all like, you know, and it's so funny because it's like I had this preconceived conception that, or preconceived idea that, you know, everyone in the industry is like this old wave of like of negative or trying to one up each other or competitive and trying to put each other down. And I'm just like, I don't know, when you lead with love, you know, like you're saying, I truly think it attracts. And so
Mm.
many, I'm like an overwhelmingly more amount of people. Granted, I've still, you know, got a ways to go and I haven't been in a ton, but an overwhelming majority of people lead with love and creativity and want to collaborate and work together and inspire each other. And I'm just like, dude, this is like there's something happening. Like, I mean, granted, I wasn't
Yeah.
in this 10 years ago, so I haven't really seen the change, but it
Yeah.
feels like it. It feels like it. There's a whole lot of love out there, and there's a whole lot more space for there to be more love. So leading the way, brother. Leading the way. All right. Now I want to talk a little bit about adventure and travel because you had identified yourself as an adventurer, man, and I think that is such a beautiful and important um like element to have as an artist because in the circus and the circus is adventure, and
Yeah.
adventure to me is being and living in the unknown because you don't know what's going to happen, and the unknown is where the miracles lie and they dance in there, and it's so exhilarating and it's also horrifying at the same time, and there's like an adrenaline to that corporate cannot give you. So tell me
Right.
a little bit about you shared a little bit about it. You can even share maybe your craziest adventure, but what is adventure? What is travel? What does it mean to you? Because I feel like travel and exploring new lands as a performer, you're seeing different cultures, you're seeing different ways of life, you're building
Mhm.
empathy because how you were maybe raised and your beliefs of what's right and wrong. You're in another area and
Yeah.
what they believe is right and wrong contradicts each other. So you're like, whoa, what's going on? So,
Yeah.
what does adventure and travel mean to you?
Yeah, I think what it means to me is seeing life from another perspective. And like moving to New York from Dallas and Oklahoma was, I guess a bit of a culture shock, but I loved it. I was so here for it. I walked 10 blocks north of here and it's a completely different neighborhood with completely different people from all around the world. I take the train down and it's like another part of the world. That's what I love about New York. I feel like I can travel around the world in an hour, wherever I want to
Mhm.
be and meet all these people and see different walks of life. That's why I think travel I mean, it's hard to do because it's expensive, but I think it's important for people to try and, explore either parts of their state or other states or other countries, whatever they can do, an adventure and just be spontaneous and soak up everything like a sponge, like cultures and language. I think that's something I've actually been diving into lately is just language itself and how important language is in life and like not understanding another language, but just hearing it and it informs you in a lot of different ways of that culture. It just how they talk. Um, I think it's language is a beautiful thing, very
Mhm.
beautiful thing. And it's even just from like New York to Texas, like just dialect.
Mhm.
I think adventure for me is learning different perspective though, in a nutshell.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Dude, I mean, that's so exciting. I wish that's like one of my I try not to live in regret, live in the present. But one of the things I wish I focused more on when I was younger was language because I took Latin for 4 years. And then I took Spanish, 1 and 2,
Mm,
and a few when I was younger. And I had never been in another country to the point where I'm like I'm standing in front of a person I can't understand you, and that like almost shame or embarrassment is an incredible motivating force to be like I need to learn this language because I want
yeah,
to understand another human being.
yeah,
Versus when I was younger, it was just I need to learn this language to get a grade, and that wasn't I didn't
right.
actually learn um in that way. And then I went to Mexico for the first time, and I was first time I'm like, dude, I need to learn Spanish, and then you travel to another country. I need to learn French. I need to learn, it's like the most and
Yeah,
I'm like, also as an actor, dude, what a special skill if you have all these different languages in your back pocket. But also talking about, how you're informed by dialect. You go down south, bro, there's that southern draw. There's just like a slower way of life. You go to New York, it's freaking fast and alive. Thing in
yeah,
Mexico, dude, like Spanish, dude, there's a metabolism to it that
yeah,
informs the culture immensely. It's fascinating, dude, and I wish.
yeah. Language really it informs like how you live for like honestly because like you come to New York and everyone speaks fast, everyone moves fast, walks fast. It's a hustle, grind.
Mhm.
Whereas in Texas, it's slower and I'm gonna walk at a leisurely pace. I'm comfortable. It's so informing
Mhm.
languages. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you were in Texas, did you venture? Because Texas is so big, it's like its own country, and there's
Oh
so
yeah.
many. I mean, you can travel. drive 2 hours and I feel like you're almost in a different world. And were you primarily in the city of Dallas, or did you go out into the countryside, and did that change how you kind of looked at things?
Oh, I went out in the countryside. Oh yeah, I had friends with ranches and whatnot, and we would go out there and just have a blast. I mean, one of my best friends, JD, we would go out in his ranch, and he had like 1,000 acres in West Texas. Literally, like absolutely insane property. Like 3 ponds. We'd four wheel, we'd dirt bike, we'd blow stuff up for fun. It was the most. We'd skeet shoot like over his pond. Like that's some of my best memories was just going out in the country and just doing stuff, like whatever.
Dude,
One of the
that's
scariest things I think the scariest thing I've ever done though was hillbilly hand fishing or noodling. You know
is
what
that
that
when you
is?
like stick your hand?
So, yeah, exactly. So, fear is of the unknown, right? So, when you're in the water already, you're like, it's murky, I can't really see. That's scary, you know? But then what you do is you stick your arm in a hole where there's a catfish in there. And you wiggle your thumb like this, like you're a fish, and they bite your hand and you pull the fish out. I never caught one, but just going down to do it, scariest thing I've ever done. Easily, easily.
Hmm. Dude, that's a real leap of faith right there. That's like straight out of Dune where he's like gotta put his hand in the box. You don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
That's wild. Okay. Um, I want to ask you, I find as I've reflected on life, sometimes like the darkest moments in the moment itself, it's like 100% why me? Why is this happening to me? This is the worst thing in the world. God, what's going on? And then years later, you're able to kind of look back in hindsight and see the purpose or see that it lent you into a different direction. And I call these kind of like big events almost like awakenings, where it's like you're kind of headed towards this direction and then an event happens that shakes things up and it puts you on a different path, and then something shakes you up and it puts you on a different path. So again, I call those awakenings. But have you experienced any of those, and how, like, what was it like going through it, and then what is it like coming out of it and reflecting back on it, and then how did it change your path?
Yeah. Um, when you said that, I thought of one moment specifically where I was just going through it. Like it felt like one thing after the next was just happening to me. It was like a lot of death around me, but then it was like, something happened with school and then it's like, my car or something like that. And then I remember this feeling of just felt like the world was on my back. I was like, man, I just need to let this out. And I remember I was in the basement of a friend's house and I was just with him in the basement and talking to him, and then I just started like breaking down, like, man, he was like, talk to me, and I started just letting him know what was going on. And he showed me love. He was like, I got you, whatever. He's a friend of mine that's been through a lot as well, and I felt so good, just like I cried, and I was just like letting it out, and I don't cry much. I wish I did more. It's funny because the only times I really cry nowadays is when I'm like watching something, like a movie or something that
Hmm.
just hits me. And but yeah, anyways, it was after that, like just the feeling of relief, letting all those tears out was unlike anything I've ever felt because I've never felt so just engulfed in this dark world that was in my head because of things that were going on around me and talking to a friend who I was close with, but like it was not the person I would have thought I was going to talk to about what was going on.
Hmm.
But he really helped me, and that brought us so close. And he's in LA now, killing it. And I talk to him all the time, and because that moment of vulnerability we had together, or I had, and he was there for me. I mean, we have a relationship that I know is going to last forever, and we're going to create some stuff together for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, bro, that's beautiful. My mom's always like, anytime you go through anything, or you travel, or you're doing this project or whatever, and all it takes is one person, you come out with like one new friend, one new experience, like that is, it makes no matter what happened during the day, the project, that is everything.
Yeah.
And it's also one of those things where, it's funny because I'm not much of a crier either. And acting, the first time I was able to take a theater class and I was giving myself permission to tap into these darker emotions of myself, it's like it was medicine. I know I've heard a lot of actors say it's not therapy, but to me it kind of is therapy. So and I feel like going through things like that in life where it's really challenging, it can be so informative as an actor because you experience that, and you might have a character, a role where you have to draw from that, or you have a similar experience, and since you've experienced that, like it all, just life, I just believe in experiences at this point, like good or bad, it's kind of like a spectrum, but just experience in general, the more range that we can get from that, especially being in this profession, um the better off we are, dude. It's really something. But dude, that's you're gonna collaborate with them, dude. You guys are gonna change the world. You're probably gonna start
Oh,
your
I
production
will.
company. It's
I
gonna be
will.
legit.
Thanks.
Heck yeah. All right, I also told all the other guys this too. I didn't want to dive into heavy hitters. For those of you who are listening, me and Giovanni met on a little TV show called Heavy Hitters. Heavy Hitters. We played baseball, and I always I want to talk about it after the show comes out because I always feel like if I hear anything about anything like about a show, hear about the behind the scenes, hear about how the noodle was made or the sausage was made, it like
Yeah.
ruins the experience and it takes me out of the illusion that we created. So we're gonna have everyone on, after the show comes out, and we'll be able to dive deep into that experience
Yeah.
and see what happens with that little guy. So, um, now, dude, I want to dive into something you were really passionate about. We're talking about the future now. We're talking about visions and dreams and
Yeah.
mood boards and colors and all the good stuff coming on. You had hinted a little bit about, you know, acting and spontaneity, and I just want you to just piggyback and just let it rip of what you
Yeah.
were feeling earlier.
Yeah. So currently, when I think about the future, I think about just me creating things, which is after this, I'm going to write, you know? I'm fulfilling that part of me that just needs to eat, like this artist part of my heart that needs to get its hands on something. And so I've stopped trying to, be successful, whatever that is in what we do. And I've started to just love every audition. Like I'm performing. Like every audition I get to have a performance. I get to put on a 2 minute play and just give it my all and just sink into a character and then on to the next. And that's how I'm just taking a different perspective on the craft and the journey. Um, but yeah, when I think about the future, I think about for the rest of my life, I think I'm gonna be battling this question of spontaneity to preparation. Like, what gives you the best performance? What gives you that, ooh, it just clicked? It's something that I've talked to some of my professors in college about, and it kind of just stumps us all. Like, what is it, you know? Um, because some of my best performances have been very spontaneous, and other of my best performances have been very prepared. Um, it's mind-boggling to me, uh, because there is no answer, I think. But I think I'm gonna juggle with this forever. It's like, a physicist trying to figure out gravity or whatever, trying to solve that equation. I feel like that's my acting equation is preparation to spontaneity.
That's hilarious. I love that. When you talk about spontaneity, are you talking like improvisation versus,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, like those little moments of just like, oh, I just did that, or like I'm gonna just follow this impulse, you know? Yeah,
Mm,
impulses, exactly.
mm.
Impulsive to prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, and how is it? So I find it's a very different approach and art when you're doing theater versus when you're doing film, because theater you have like 3 months to prepare. You're with this material, you're rehearsing, you're playing, you're finding what doesn't work, you're finding what does work, and then you do a show, and like you were talking about, like you kind of have to recreate and find a new spark or keep it alive and not drop that kind of momentum and energy and ball. Whereas with
Yeah.
film, you might work with the Coen brothers where you're doing like one or two takes with no rehearsal time. So it's a weird thing. And it's weird too, man, because like I hear Tom Holland, people just work differently. Like he doesn't really memorize his lines until like right before because he wants to. What do you think about that?
It's so funny that you say that because I literally, before our conversation today, I was thinking, oh yeah, because I wanted to hit on spontaneity and all that. And I was like, Tom Holland, I'm going to talk about him because Tom Holland, yeah, he doesn't memorize his freaking lines before. And I'm like, this dude's amazing. There is no answer. And I think it's person to person. And I'm trying to find the right balance for me, you know?
Mhm.
Oh, that's so funny that you brought that up because I literally thought about Tom Holland before
Does
this.
does he ad lib a lot, or is he just have one of those brains like Kieran Culkin where he's just like word like he looks at it
Yeah.
word perfect?
Yeah. I bet you it's a little ad-libbing here and there, but I'm not sure. I'm curious though. We'll
Hmm.
have to ask him.
Yeah, dude. What would you say is one of yours? Because now that I'm like reflecting, I find like sometimes my favorite moments in my short career so far, one of them was from a legitimate just improvisational exercise where all you can do is listen and then react and respond. And when you're doing that, like you're so present. Like improv is one of those things where like you have to be present or else you just
Yeah.
can't continue the story.
Yeah.
But then another one, dude, was when we like rehearsed the shit out of this thing, and I felt super comfortable and free to also play in those moments and find new beats within it. So it's really weird. It's a weird thing now that I think about it, and this is gonna keep me up at night, bro. But like, what are some for you, like your favorite performances where you really, you talk about that Pixar movie flow where you're a musician, you're getting in that flow state. It's like it's etheric. Like you kind of black
Yeah.
out, throughout that performance.
You
What are
sure
some
do.
performances where you felt that?
Yeah, so immediately comes to mind, I did a show in college called The Normal Heart, and I did it in a black box theater, very intimate space, very, very vulnerable show, intense. And my character went through a lot in that. One of the moments I think of was in a rehearsal, we did an acting exercise, like just to, change up the scene. And what we did was we sat in a chair across from each other and had our knees touching. Like we were right close to each other. And we looked into each other's eyes and we didn't break eye contact and ran the whole scene, but like at a very low volume and just really tried to like kind of like look into each other's souls and just see what was going on in our brains, right?
Eye gazing.
And oh my gosh, like the emotions that came out of us doing this scene and how vulnerable we got, like I was very prepared. Like I I memorized the whole script before we even started rehearsing for this show. And that was just something like I wanted to do and see how it worked with my process. And I think it's the best performance I've given ever.
Mm-hmm.
But like it was very prepared, but each night it would be a little different. Every single scene would be a little bit different in like the smallest way, but it would keep it fresh. But I think that exercise, like doing it completely different, just complete stillness instead of doing the blocking, changed everything. Um, it's like we really tapped into the emotion and understood what each other were going through in that scene. Like, yes, we knew the words, but it's it's indescribable like what a show can do when you get that vulnerable and you just tap in with the emotion of that character. Like we would always it was all right, I'm going down a rabbit hole right now,
No,
but
let's go.
one of the most loose rehearsal rooms, most fun, joking places was that show. Although it was the heaviest show I've ever done, it was like the most fun rehearsal room I've ever had. It was the weirdest thing. I was like, how is this show so amazing? Yet we were all like we would joke around when we had breaks, not whenever we had to work, but I don't know, there's something about like coming into our conversation today. I I was a little nervous. I was excited. I'm hyped to be with see my guy Andrew again. But I was like, ooh, what am I gonna talk about? I was like, wait a minute though. I gotta just loosen up and let the conversation flow and go wherever it wants to go. Because if I'm tense and I'm thinking of things to say and I'm, stressed about it, it's not gonna be as good as it could be. And so I think loosening up and being comfortable is huge in acting and life. And whatever you're doing, you're gonna be better if you're not tense,
Mhm.
which takes preparation. But then, like how are you
Mhm.
gonna do that the impromptu stuff?
Mhm. No, dude, that's real. And I also find when it comes to material that's so heavy like that, I almost think it's like you have to create a safe environment in order to go deeply honestly into those places. And the fact that
Yeah,
you guys were having fun and had a love for each other outside of it, I think was the reason it was a successful show, because if sometimes you're like really dancing around and like I think with like joy loosens out the body, being able to play, being able to feel comfortable loosens the body. When you're like not fully on with each other, there's like an energy and there's a tightness, and that can fully impact those performances, kind of like you're talking about. So that's amazing that you went through that. And I also wanted to touch on, bro, the eye gazing exercise. That's like an exercise that people do in like men's retreats. I've seen it with like guys, like a boy staring into his father's eyes. It's literally just like 10 minutes of just like not blinking, dude. Tears. I've never done it. I've never like done it deeply, but I know like
yeah,
partners like a guy and his girlfriend, they might do that exercise, and you can tap into some pretty crazy stuff. So that's beautiful that your acting or director, had that
yeah.
exercise for you.
I mean, eye contact is so vulnerable, and it's such a tool in acting as well. Like if I'm like seeking eye contact with you, I need your attention, or if I'm avoiding it, like I'm trying to like don't talk to me right now, like or like distances, like yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But eye contact is so vulnerable and yeah, it's actually a really funny thing. We did a lot of a lot of we spent a lot of time with that subject of eye contact in school. And yeah, it can get uncomfortable, but it's like you got to go in those uncomfortable places in order to grow, you know? You got to
Dude,
get
eye
there.
contact is like I'm like I love we're actors, we're students of life. And I'm
Yeah.
watching, I'm at the grocery store and there's like a little kid who's, like he's like sitting in the grocery cart and his feet are dangling, and this kid is just staring everyone in the eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you're dope. Like, and then I look at Hugh, like we can't do it, bro. We have so many guards up, and it's like if I look at you, I see you, I like want something from you or something, instead of just being able to just observe someone for, what they are and where they're at. And even like I find it like actually breaks my heart because sometimes I fall into the trap as well. But you're just walking on the sidewalk. It's a beautiful day outside, and you're walking past strangers, and nobody will like look at you. They'll just walk with their head down, and I'm just like, what kind of world do we live in, dude? Like eye contact is so vulnerable, and what a superpower. I truly believe in like, I mean now, but in 5, 10, 15 years, once social media really continues to have a grasp on us, eye contact and being present is going to be an actual gift that is going to be rare to come by. So that's great that was being practiced though in those classes.
Yeah.
Okay, my brother, what, did I have anything else? Might come back to me. Okay, my dude, so we got some final rapid fire questions, and take this at your own liberty, my man, because some of these are really kind of silly, some of these are a little bit more thought provoking and might take a little bit more
Dude.
time. Giovanni, my man, what would you say right now brings you the most joy?
I know the rapid fire. I'm already taking my time. I'm like, oh shoot. Most joy, probably the sunlight, because you don't get it much here. And when I do, it's like I feel the warmth on my skin, and I'm like, wow, that feels incredible. Like I just smile. Like I look like a crazy person in the street, just being like, wait, hold on, I just gotta stop and take this in. I love sunlight.
Dude, that is a fantastic answer because today and tomorrow are going to be stunningly beautiful, and
Yeah.
it's breaks my heart because I feel like I'm a victim when the sun doesn't shine, but amazing. It's amazing. All right, now what would you say your top four values are?
Um, honesty, loyalty, um, ooh, that's good. duty, and respect.
What would you say your spirit animal is?
Probably like a French bulldog.
Oh, I like it. I like it. You talk about adventure a lot. What would you say your craziest adventure of all time is? The summit, the
Craziest.
peak, Giovanni
Yeah.
Fontana.
Yeah. Um, ooh, that's hard. I mean, in Italy for 6 weeks in Rome was like the best 6 weeks of my life, but I'm trying to think outside of that. I don't know. Oh, I don't know. It's probably yeah. Rome for 6 weeks and just exploring the history and doing Julius Caesar in Rome was absolutely insane. Yeah.
Mm,
Probably that. Probably that.
I love it. I love it. All right, we talked about crying a little bit, and you said last time you really cried is during movies. So, what was the last movie that you cried to?
What's the last one? It's it's actually a TV show,
Mm.
the last thing I cried to, and that was Breaking Bad.
Well, good answer.
I
Good
know it's
answer.
so red. I'm putting my girlfriend on it. We're on season 5 now, but yeah, that was the last thing I cried to. And I'm crying, I'm looking over, I'm like, are you feeling this too? Like
So good. That is
Yeah.
peak cinema. Peak cinema. All right, what is your comfort film? Might not be your favorite film, but it's your comfort film when you go back to.
So I have two answers to this. When I was a kid, it was The Spy Next Door. I used to watch that all the time with Jackie
Jackie
Chan.
Chan. Yes.
Yeah. But now it's probably Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Mm,
I loved that movie.
mm-hmm.
I absolutely loved that movie.
Yeah, dude, the Daniels. Are they working on anything else right now? I'm sure they are. Dude,
I don't know. I'm sure they are, but I don't know
they're good.
exactly what. Yeah.
It's a great answer. All right. You also said you were an innovator, and I want to hear if you were a kid, were you into like inventions and like I know that was like a big thing when I was a kid, like I want to invent something. Did you ever have an invention? And if not, is there something you would want to invent in the world right now if you had the technology?
Yeah, yeah. So when I was a kid, it was like I was like, man, I'm always tired in the morning, but I don't want to drink coffee. And now I just chug a glass of water and it like solved my problem. But when I was a kid, I was like, I wish there was just always a cold face mask on the side of my bed. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna create an alarm that whenever it goes off in the morning when I need to wake up, it's a really cold, like ice mask ready for me. I could just throw on my face and it'll wake me up.
How
That
old
was
were
like
you
an
when you,
idea I had as a kid.
dude? It's a great idea because it's hard because you can't keep things cold. You gotta toss in the freezer and it's
Right,
warm
I'm
in
like,
the
it would
morning.
have to be its own little device or something, but
How old were you when you came up with that?
oh, I was probably like 11, 10 years old.
Yeah, that's a
You
heck
know
of an
what
idea.
though? Real quick, I might, I can't remember if I have like a notes tab called like inventions or something. No, I don't. Okay, but I swear, I come up with stuff all the time, like silly stuff, and I need to just start writing it down for fun.
Dude, that's the heartbeat of a great story. All right. You also say you're a collaborator working with other artists, other people. Who is like your dream collaborator? It could be a director, it could be an actor.
Jordan Peele probably currently.
Hmm.
I'm like, man, what's he up to next? You know, I would love to experience being on set with him and just his brain, you know, because he went from Key and Peele to being like one of the greatest horror movie directors of our time. I'm like, your brain is so interesting to me, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. So talented. All right, who is if there was a book, movie, or TV character that is most like you, who is it? This is a thinker.
Yeah, it is. Hmm. Yeah, this might. Wow, I'm stumped. Hmm.
Dude, there was like a girl who, or a woman who writes a book on just communication, and she gives, tips and tricks on how to really connect with someone and what, good questions to ask. This was one of her questions. She was like, I had a friend, had no idea really who she was. I asked her this question, and she said Katniss Everdeen. She's like always surviving. I'm like, wow. I actually like get a glimpse into like how she actually feels. So if there was ever that book or film that, you watch and you just connect and resonate with, like, dude. Or it could have been like at a time in space when you watched it or read it.
I don't know. I don't necessarily feel like this character, but for some reason this keeps popping in my mind, and that is like Scott Pilgrim. I don't I don't exude his energy or at all, but I am very like nonchalant a lot of the time, just going through life. Like I have a lot of energy, but sometimes I'm just kind of not sometimes, a lot of the time I'm just like, when I'm going throughout my day and stuff, I try to be like Scott Pilgrim, I guess, not too stressed out, but I actually no, he's a little lazy, but yeah, I don't know. I
I like
guess
that
the
answer.
nonchalant, I like how he's nonchalant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's a dreamer. I love it. Now, who is I don't really know how I want to phrase this question. I wrote down dream character. Like it could also be like a dream genre. I
Yep.
don't even also like saying like dream job, like project, but like dream character that you'd want to play. It could be someone who's like a character that's already existed that you would have loved to play them, or it could be someone that you kind of create.
Yeah. Well, there's a play called This Is Our Youth, and I would love to play I think it's Warren in that. But just because I love the show, the writing, I think it speaks to our generation a lot. And there's not much out there right now that speaks, I think, to our generation a lot. So I think that's kind of also my goal right now in writing. Like, I want to get something eventually to off Broadway, maybe Broadway or the screen, whatever, that can touch our generation, specifically the men in it, and like get them a little vulnerable and that they
Mm,
can relate to. That's my goal in writing. But
mm,
ultimate character, ultimate like dream role would be to originate something that changes people. And so like,
mm,
yeah, I'm trying to write that right now, basically. Not for myself. I'm just trying to write it for like our generation and men.
mm.
But yeah, I would say something on Broadway in an intimate space that changes people in our generation.
Bro, I love that. And this is leading me to ask a question that's not going to be a rapid fire answer, but because you had highlighted it earlier about wanting to write or tell stories that have an impact, like there's an intention behind it versus just getting box office success or getting big talent names, like actually having a story with something to say.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, again, this is not a rapid fire answer, but where did that come from? Like that nature to tell stories, to inspire, to motivate, to allow us to point, because so much, I guess, points us in a direction of, lack. And I feel like drama is literally just a lack of communication, and it can be, it's conflict, and conflict is not a good mirror for life. Like it's great entertainment, but it doesn't mirror life very well. And then we subconsciously pull from these characters because I like this character, that character, but that dynamic isn't really healthy, honestly. So, what is the motivating force to tell these stories that point us in that positive direction, that inspire or show what the right masculinity is? Where did that come from? Is that just like an altruistic nature of trying to do good in the world, and where did that come from? Like, was it from not seeing good in the world, or I don't even know where the question's coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely a part of it is seeing not so good in the world. But I'm going back to that show, The Normal Heart that I did. It's about the AIDS epidemic.
Mm,
It's very vulnerable, very intense show, heavy. Um, I saw people change because of that show, different perspectives. The one thing that really grabbed me though was it was the first time I saw my dad cry actually, was
mm,
at this show. Like he's in it's a very intimate black box, and I saw him cry, and I was like, wow, my art can actually change people and for the better. And like that was such a powerful moment for me. And I was like, if I can make him cry, I can change the world, you know?
Hmm.
Honestly, it's cheesy, but like it's so true though. Like art's so beautiful, and you can go into politics and try to change the world forcibly, but I think art's the way to go.
Dude, that's a beautiful answer. That's a beautiful answer. All right, my friend, you lived an abundant, beautiful life where you wrote and it got picked up and not only off Broadway, but it got on Broadway, dude. And you're this well-known guy bringing so much love and joy and characters to the stage that people can connect with. And you get fan mail every other Saturday because people are just so inspired by the work that you do on stage, off stage, on camera, off camera. And you have a family and you build this beautiful life and you're have grandkids and you freaking tell stories and give back and you're just you live to be 137 years old and you just have a phenomenal life. You live every dream, every adventure that you wanted to, but ultimately your time has come and you move on to whatever that next phase is. And it's the day of your funeral and you have friends and family members and loved ones that they show up. How do you want to be remembered and what do you want people to say about you?
Yeah. I want people to remember me as a guy like that had you laughing and had you smiling and always had a smile on my face. Spread joy in the world and love. I just want all positive vibes, love and joy. Like that's all, that's what I'm about. That's what I want to spread. And I know like walking around, if I'm not smiling, I might look a little, I don't know. Might have a little R. I don't think I have RBF, but I think I'm not the most approachable, is what I've always been told. But I'm like, man, you talk to me for a half a second, and you're gonna realize that's not the case. But I'd love to be remembered as a guy that just not even would light up a room, but would just put a smile on one person's face and change their day and love the world and just spread love.
Mm. Mm, absolutely. All right, brother, last question. So there's a young kid, young artist who's maybe he took that transition from sports and is trying to get into the arts, and wants to tell stories and share different perspectives and share his own perspective. And he is in the world of acting and trying to navigate this crazy world of rejection and possibilities and you're really close to getting it and then you kind of fall through and you don't know where you're going or what you're doing. You're kind of floating along in life and you just want to share and tell art and be an artist, but it's just kind of challenging right now. What kind of advice would you give to someone going through that right now?
Yeah. Um, it's really hard. It's not easy. Rejection is not personal, you know. Um, One thing I would say, I think I have it. Where's where is it? I'll grab this real quick. I would say to read this book right here.
Jenna Fisher, bro. Yes.
Jenna Fisher, The Actor's Life. If you're ever feeling that way, read that because that's what I did whenever I was feeling that way, and it made me like, oh, I gotta go for another 20 years. Even if I don't get it, if I'm not just acting, I'm gonna keep going for another 20 years. After I read that book, I was like, yeah, I can do this, you
Mm,
know? It's so easy to get down on yourself in this, but surround yourself with people you love and people that motivate you. That's key, number one. And just keep going. If you love it, you should be able to just keep going and love every second of that grind, man. I think. I mean, you don't have to though, it's sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it's a dark world. The highs are high and the lows are low. But um I think if you have to really love it in order to do what we do.
mm. Giovanni, brother, beautiful man, dude. Thank you so much for being on here, bro. You're like genuinely such a light and talented again. And Again, I was telling you earlier, I mean, it's like amazing how God drops these people in my life where it's like so aligned, and to lead with love feels like such a weird foreign concept that like hasn't been embodied, at least in like Western culture. That's such an assumption and generalization, but I'm finding a lot of not just people, but like young guys and young artists who are living in that style. And like that's a heartbeat moving forward, dude. And you're gonna have so much impact moving forward. And you're gonna freaking check all those boxes and have some crazy freaking adventures. And dude, we're gonna be like 90 years old one time, and we're gonna be sipping some matcha or something by the fire and sharing these stories. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be freaking amazing. So thank you, bro, for being on here. Now, before I let you go, let the audience know where can we find you? Where can we support you? Once that play comes together, we want to be there for you, man. So where can everyone find you?
Yeah, I think probably Instagram is going to be the place where you would find me, G.I. Joe Fontana. Um, or if you just search Giovanni Fontana, you'll find me. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I'm gonna be putting stuff out for sure. Not expecting anything, just creating art, you know?
That's the way it is, man. It's like such sometimes you when you do it for the love of it, it's like it's if you're listening to this and you're starting out acting and you don't have any credits or anything, you take that free work, you take that stuff just to gain experience,
Oh yeah,
and you put out stuff with where to the full on ethers where nobody is listening or and you're just building experience, you're getting comfortable in the space and you're doing the thing, and then ultimately you never know who's gonna be like, hey, I saw that one thing. You have a really cool look. Do you want to do this? And then that puts you here, and then that person leads you here, that brings you another person over here, and then it's just like bing, bang, boom, boom,
exactly.
boom. And sometimes it doesn't happen in like 5 years, and maybe it's 10 years. Maybe it's not 10 years, it's 15 years, you know? So do it for the love of the game. But brother, dude, I love you, bro. Have a
Love you,
beautiful
man.
rest of your
Hey,
day. Enjoy the
great. Thank you
sunshine.
so much for having me on. I had such a good time. It was so good seeing you, man.